we all have, I think, struggled or enjoyed the challenges of getting our S2P systems integrated with a lot of the third-party applications. So we want to talk a little bit today about some more stories. So let me start with a question for Jimmy Ramirez. So Jimmy is the, as mentioned, he is the supply chain and procurement leader from ERCOT. And Jimmy, in managing supply chain risks at ERCOT, how do you prioritize and address the various threats, especially in a sector as critical as electric reliability?
Thanks, Bill.
Sure.
So that is certainly top of mind for an organization like ERCOT. If I can provide a little bit of background, we have a regulatory authority called NERC, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, and they have, back around 2017, they established some expectations for organizations in our space that we must have a supply chain strategy plan in place by around 2020. And obviously with security and reliability as primary objective. And we did implement that, and the requirement was that any involving the acquisition of a BCA asset, bulk electric system, cyber asset, we must conduct a kind of a deep dive cybersecurity assessment of that supply. Well, ERCOT, recognizing that was the right thing to do, a good practice, kind of took it a step further and said, we'll implement this for every technology purchase we make, whether it's hardware, software, SaaS system, IT professional services, and so that's a little bit of the background that led to the plan that we have of how we assess cybersecurity.
Yes. And so Raphael, reflecting on what Jimmy said, how about your approach to information security and data security and risk management?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Within that subject, what we do there is we take very serious that every new platform or suppliers that are offering services or any kind product of any kind, they are to have the security assessments being followed. So what we do there is we have those controls that are monitored, and several of those are controlled in some frequency basis. And we try to measure as much as we can on those controls for all security-related topics.
Let me continue with your reference. So at Heineken, what are some of the systems that you do integrate your S2P system with?
Yeah, so sharing a bit of our challenge there. So Heineken has several ERPs at this moment, very fragmented, and we decide there to integrate with those ERPs, and we have been quite successful doing this, but it's some challenge related to those, especially when it turns out related master data. Master data not just for the suppliers itself, but also the financial related objects. So basically we do those integrations with those ERPs. That are several of those. And we use in those integrations, we started using ISAS. So our journey started there in 2020 when we introduced iSaaS to contribute with those complex landscape integration. And so far, what we have developed is like a data model that we could, at least from the Zycus perspective, be able to address likewise universal template that all those ERPs that were connected, that we have some different ERPs connected, so they could use the same data model. So it made us to, in a way, to standardize. It doesn't matter which ERP that we are connecting with.
Jimmy, do you have the same complexity there, found, or is it a little bit more contained just in terms of the number of applications?
We have one ERP,
Okay.
but not without challenges, right?
Yeah.
And, given the organization that we are, we've got some rather complex integrations still. One of the things that we have to do is track all resources who come into our facility as contractors that need some level of access, given that we're a critical infrastructure. So that includes supplier resources. So one of the integrations we have is from our contract lifecycle management system, which is a Zycus product, to our identity access management system for resources, supplier resources that are on site at ERCOT over a period of time. And that period of time is governed by the contract, hence the need for that integration. That contract terminates, there's data sent back to our identity access management system to terminate access to that resource. I mentioned NERC earlier, we're required to terminate access within 24 hours.
Right.
Of course, we do have integrations to our ERP system. It's a Workday system that for spend analysis, and that ties back to our contracts. There's a number of integrations there, but it's not as complex as.
So, picking up on risk, though, you're using iRisk, right?
Yes, we are.
Tell us a little bit about how you transition to that and how you're applying it.
So we've been using iRisk even before it was called iRisk. We've been a client for, I guess, about 10 years now. Back in 2014, we issued an RFP for a contract lifecycle management system. And as part of that implementation, we identified a product called iPerform to support some of our vendor management activities. We have a vendor management group whose responsibility is to proactively assess supplier performance, primarily those suppliers that are critical and strategic to our operations. And we used to do that using spreadsheets and email, conditional formatting, and we took that opportunity to basically automate that entire process through iPerform, which has since evolved into iRisk. And we continue to use that product. I mentioned our cybersecurity risk assessments that we implemented in 2020. It was a 14-month implementation, but not because of the technology. We already had the framework in place with iPerform, iRisk to support that implementation. The time was more around the collaboration involved with putting a plan and identifying processes across cybersecurity, compliance, IT architecture, and the groups involved in that.
Was NERC helpful to you in that process?
Not so much. I actually sit on the NERC supply chain working group, so now I'm involved in helping define the guidance to organizations like ours And I mean, it's in terms of assessing cybersecurity risk, it's there's no one right way to do it for an organization. It all depends on an organization's needs, and there's a lot of guidance out there. There's a lot of suppliers entering the space, third-party suppliers, of which we use some. So it is a kind of evolving market, and will continue to, I think, to evolve. We'll continue to see guidance coming out over the next few years, and obviously it's critical for anybody who has a dependency on technology.
Rafael, you touched on just the degree to which the ISAS was instrumental to you as in integrating with all of those ERPs. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that involves?
Yeah, so basically we used to have a lot of customizations being hosted into our middleware solutions that we have there. And then with this transition that we want to move to SaaS, we could really leverage on the product of Zycus in this case, that things that we used to maintain our in-house with our own resources, now we could outsource from the Zycus teams that they are maintaining such rules that make our needs to fit with those complexity of connecting with several ERPs. So as SaaS for us, it's made us to decrease costs within our own team maintaining such rules.
Jimmy, so we heard a lot about Gen AI this morning, and yes, what probably everyone is thinking about is application to their own environment. I was wondering, for your environment, ERCOT, what do you see as some of the real exciting potential of Gen AI? What are some of the things that you think your organization is going to pursue as a top priority?
Yeah, good question. And I've been listening to that this morning. I think advanced contract analytics is something I'm excited about. I believe it was Delta who talked about executing their contracts and being able to say this contract is 75% good or 80% or 90% based off of some baseline. I'd actually like to, if there's anybody here from Delta, I'd like to understand how you're doing that. That's one area where in our contract lifecycle management system, we're about to implement contract authoring, and we're really excited about assessing risk based on deviations from our standard terms in our contracts. That's one area. Maybe another is, I mentioned our vendor management office. One of the things that we do on an annual basis is assess our supplier portfolio. Are we focusing our time on the right suppliers in terms of assessing their performance? And that's quite an effort. It's looking at, it's doing a lot of spend analysis. It's talking with people across the organization. It's understanding how supplier products are deployed and their footprint across the organization. So I think some Gen AI that could help in that regard would save us quite a bit of time.
Absolutely. Rafael, so Heineken's always pushing the boundaries, not just making fantastical beer, but also in terms of technology across the organization. How do you envision tools like AppExtend and others, custom development is really transforming your own procurement processes?
Yeah. So what we see there, for instance, is with AppExtend. So it was we knew that the standardized way of the product couldn't really make some additional on what we would be needing within different markets that we operate. So then with a product like BRVs, that is how it's named, for business rules validation, within AppExtend, we could really go a bit beyond within what the requesters would be need to follow to create those requisitions in the way that it will succeed when we do the purchase order integrations with our ERPs. So not all ERPs are configured within the same way. There are different versions there are different challenges. And within a single product on top, that is Zycus, connect with such a variety of process or solution, we had to extend that validations using the app extend. So there are a lot of apps there so far, and you try to use there once the product is not offering. So we come up with several ideas. So we put a few apps in place by using this product that make much more flexible now to customize what the SaaS product can deliver by the standards. So within this open up very different options to be able to make the product even better and then make it a bit more aligned with what you really require to make your process more seamless. What we quite use some often is like using those apps to do massive updates or such of cases that we have to do a big batch of loading. So we are using those apps that are available for those reasons. So then it's really flexible in this case.